Today we're going to be talking about the Knight X-0 from Wuben. And I don't know who designed it, but whoever they are is most likely a Star Wars fan. That was the very first thing I thought of when I saw these things, especially this off-white. It's almost like a beige color. I think there's a word for it, in fact. But man, doesn't this look like those cameras that you see in A New Hope? Anyway, I think this clearly was made by a Star Wars fan. And if you like Star Wars, these are pretty darn cool. So let's go ahead and dig right into these really neat little flashlights. Well, these are definitely a different flavor than what I usually review. I want to thank Wuben for sending these out. They're not my style, but man, I can see a lot of people being attracted to this particular aesthetic. And it does have a feel to it that is very distinctive. It reminds me quite heavily of some of the things I saw when I watched A New Hope, which is an old movie, but definitely feels very Star Wars-esque, especially with this white color. The same is sort of true with the black, reminding me of all those little robots running around on the floor. Whoever made this, if they weren't influenced by Star Wars, then maybe I have Star Wars on the brain, because it certainly feels like that, and that's not a bad thing. I like themed stuff like this. It is very, very, very cool. And especially if it's also functional. So these switches at the top, which I guess are for fidgeting, potentially, are also buttons to activate all the functions. So they press down on these two spots, and then that activates the functionality of the tool. They also expose the Type-C port. Now these are both rated IPX7 or higher. I'm trying to remember the exact waterproof rating. But what's funny about that is they have an exposed Type-C port, yet they are waterproof. So there must be it must have a waterproof port or something like that, which I've seen with Type-C. So that is possible. Pretty interesting. Now these use a 18350 built-in, and yes, you can unscrew the bottom and get access to it, but you probably will never have to. This is the same size as the T1S from ThruNite, and I thought I'd bring that in because we do a quick weight comparison here in ounces. So this is 2.4, whereas this is around 3, just around 3. Okay, so a little bit on the heavier side, but there's a lot more material here. You can see that they have made it more of a square. There's a lot more material. Now that's great because it's also going to provide a great heat sink for the light when it's on turbo, so you're not going to ramp down as quickly with the light. So there's some give and take here. But really this is about aesthetics. These flashlights, they do have a very high output of upwards of 900 lumens, and you can get it in the high CRI like this one, or you can get it in the cool white. Whoops, that brings me up to another thing. You can get it in this cool white right here. And if you notice, I accidentally turned on the strobe. It's the one thing I don't like about this flashlight, and it's worth noting. When it's in off position, if you press twice instead of getting turbo, you will get a strobe function. I see where they were going with it, but it's not my preferred thing. If I turn it on first and then double press, then I get turbo. That's how that works. If I hold press, I get the moonlight like I do in so many other flashlights, right? Same kind of setup. And it has other modes as well. So we go ahead and we turn it on. We can then cycle up through, and it kind of ramps slowly through the modes. And it's basically very similar to other flashlights we've seen, with the moonlight being separate with the hold press, the turbo being separate, and the 3 in the middle. So low, medium, high in the middle, and that's kind of the same setup here. Everything between half a lumen all the way up to around 900 to almost 1,000 lumens with this flashlight. So plenty good output, but I think what's really going to make this a flashlight you will buy or not has to do not with the features, but more the aesthetics. And it's not just these colors they have a whole variety of different finishes on these. I am really liking the white one. It's not really white, it's more like a beige. It's like an off-white. and it has a great matte finish, and I just love the way this thing looks. And if I was trying to match a certain aesthetic, I think I could find it with the X-0 and kind of playing around with that. So if that's your thing, this might be your flashlight. That's kind of how I feel about it. Functionally, I think it's a little bit heavier than its competitors. I'm not as super thrilled about the milled pocket clip in this particular style because so much of it sticks out. But it's definitely got a flavor to it, and if you like it, it's a cool flashlight for sure. And this little flippy tab, yeah, it's gonna annoy the heck out of someone. Very cool. Thank you, Wuben, for sending these out. I will put a link to these down in the description, and yeah, feel free to check them out or not, but kind of a different flavor, wouldn't you say? Is this something that you like, or would you prefer something more utilitarian? Let me know down in the comments.